What is up and welcome back to Voodoo. If you're a Mustang fan, this vlog is for you. We got an exclusive interview with Bill Ford Jr., who is the great grandson of Henry Ford. And I asked him point blank to his face why he called the Mach E a Mustang, and we got an answer. We got a bunch of other questions that he answered as well. This was during Car Week. It was an exclusive interview with Carl Brauer, who is a Forbes contributor and an automotive journalist, and he got us the access that we needed to be able to ask some really good questions. The descendant of the guy behind one of the greatest automotive brands of all time.
What do you think previous generations of Ford would think of today's automotive industry?
My great-grandfather would have said, what took you so long? Some of the CEOs that I've known in my life not have embraced it. Far too many of them deathly afraid of change. It's the most fun time in my career. Now, they're going to be real winners and real losers. We'll look very different as a company. And a lot of our traditional competitors won't be there. But it's interesting. It's not just our EVs, the Lightning and the Mach E, but it's also Bronco. Now we got a new Mustang coming. People are really jacked about those too. Our entire lineup, whether it's internal combustion or EVs, are, I think, really the best that I've ever seen.
Bill, what do you consider the most and or least exciting change in the past 20 years?
Well, I do think electrification is the most exciting change, and it's the biggest change. One of the changes that comes with it, it's incredibly important, but I feel left behind, which is software. I understand the importance of it, I understand what it can do for the vehicle, I can understand what it can do for the customer. So we have to be a leader there. It's just I'm way out of my
It's the biggest
way
difference.
Out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I mean, they talk about, instead of using screwdrivers, you use laptops to tune the car now. If you could go back 20 years, but you had the knowledge you had now, the single biggest change you'd make.
I gave a TED Talk in 2011 about the changes that were coming, and I was absolutely ridiculed in our industry for that talk. Virtually all of it's come to pass. If I could go back, it would be to wake people up. I was on the board at the time of eBay, which was in Silicon Valley, and I saw Tesla in its early days. People think Elon was the founder. He wasn't. There was a guy named Martin Eberhard, saw this Lotus sports car that had terrible fit and finish, shake, rattle, and roll, but boy, was it fun. It was so different. And I came back to Detroit, and I could get nobody even remotely interested in going out there to visit. And that's when I realized we're an insular company in an insular industry. This world around us is going to change. If I could change anything, it's nothing about the car itself. It's nothing about the way we build it or anything else. It's the mindset that existed in our company and in our industry.
And you can't change the passage of time. It's evolve or die.
The Mach E, I did not want that to be called Mustang, because to me, Mustang was...
He's a huge Mustang. Our camera guy here, he owns
Awesome.
a Mustang. He's a huge Mustang fan. And he was like, are you going to ask him why they called the Mach E the Mustang?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. I was the last holdout because, I have too many Mustangs. To me, the Mustang was the high watermark of fun in the auto industry. If you weren't having fun, working through the gears of a V8 Mustang, then you shouldn't drive. You should just go, do something completely different. So I've always loved Mustangs from the early days. Some were better than others, some I didn't really love, but I always loved Mustangs. So when the team came and said they wanted to do this thing that looked like an SUV and it was electric and call it Mustang, I said, no, over my dead body, there's no chance. They kept coming back and I kept saying, no, it's a nice vehicle. No, it's not a Mustang. Then I think it was Farley and Howe said to me, would you at least drive the prototype? I said, sure, I'd love to drive the prototype. Are you kidding? Of course. And I kept it for about 4 or 5 days and I came back and I said, all right, you can call it Mustang. Because I'd never had so much fun before. Right. And it's interesting, when we brought in the Mustang owners clubs, they had the same reaction I did. Their body language at first was like this. I mean, it's like, are you kidding? This thing is not a Mustang. We got them in it to drive it, and they completely changed. I mean, first of all, it's fast as hell. It's really responsive to drive. You can play with the different drive modes, so you can go from whisper mode to engage mode to unbridled. Then you can do one pedal braking, which is very different than anything we've ever done before. Or if you don't like that, if you like the traditional feel, you just take that off. Once I actually played with it, burned a lot of rubber, started throwing the thing around, I thought, actually, this thing is faster than most of my Mustangs. And this was this was not a GT prototype. This was just the regular prototype. I was the last convert, and I did it enthusiastically when I converted because I couldn't believe how much fun the car was. Was it the right decision? Yeah, I do think it is. And we're getting a lot less pushback on that once people actually drove the vehicle.
Yeah. And that's kind of what happened with me too. Once
you had the same reaction?
Yeah, once I drove it, it's like, wow, it's an awfully good performance car, whether you want to call it a Mustang or not.
Yeah, that's right. It went against everything that I thought a Mustang should be, but then had so much fun in it. I thought, okay, fine, it's
Yeah.
called Mustang. And you know, and the owners clubs have kind of had the same reaction we've had.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, they went from saying hell no to like, wow.
Well, and I decided at some point, Bill, I said, let's just evaluate it as a car and stop thinking about the nomenclature for a second.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it's an incredibly good car. It's an incredibly fun car to drive. And so that's when I got less wound up about the name.
Yeah, I mean, you and I had a very similar journey. Having said all that, I'm excited for the new Mustang.
And I'm excited too.
Yeah, that's gonna be a blast. See you back at the racetrack on that one. And don't close your mind to the idea of it. It's really a fun car.
I took a trip out of Cali, Arizona to the valley, fast cars like a